program. Our speaker today is Kevin Dodson. He's Beckon's VP of Data Strategy. Kevin's responsible for competitive strategy, facility with key industry trends, and along with our CEO, Jennifer Zez, that he crafts and steers the Beckon category-leading point of view and go-to-market strategy. He acts as a liaison between Beckon prospects and customers and Beckon business and product strategy. He educates the market on the Beckon offering and provides pivot strategies for the business as the marketplace expands and develops. Before Beckon, Kevin co-founded the marketing analytics practice at US Web Razorfish, where he kicked off his 15 years of experience in marketing analytics and strategy. He helps both large enterprises and startups more effectively use marketing and customer data to drive top-level results. Kevin holds a BS from West Point and an MBA in marketing and operations from the Wharton School of Business. Welcome, Kevin. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Bonnie, and a warm welcome to everybody joining us this morning or this afternoon if you're on the East Coast on this webinar. Really excited. We got some good topics to cover. I think Bonnie mentioned we got about a half hour this morning. So we got 20, 25 minutes worth of content, and then we want to keep it open 5 to 10 minutes worth of questions. I was reviewing the attendee list for the webinar. Got a lot of senior marketers, a lot of thought leaders, and so I know we'll have some good questions. And maybe some good disagreements, which I'm always open to. So if you have those, as Buddy mentioned, please, she'll be handling the Q&A, so please send those questions to her via the interface on the webinar. So getting going, our topic today is the 2015 outlook for marketing performance management. We got 10 topics here. I'll spend about a minute or two per topic, so we're going to move along pretty quickly. But I think it bears to talk a little bit about how this webinar came about. So towards the end of 2014, I was speaking with my CEO of Beckon, Jenny Zezit, just about the trends and the themes that we were seeing. Some things just kept popping up over and over again throughout all of 2014. I know most of you are familiar with Beckon, but for those of you who are not, Beckon is a omnichannel marketing performance management platform, and we're specializing in bringing data together across the entire enterprise, automating those data feeds, normalizing and standardizing them for blending and for synchronization, and then allowing marketers to view that on a real-time 24/7 basis through dashboards and scorecards. So what that all that means to you is that as we, Beckon's about 4 years old. You can see here, this is a list of customers that we have, a lot of big global brands, big B2C companies, as well as some large big B2C, as well as some large B2B companies. And over the course of Beckon, it's about 4 years old, we've talked to literally hundreds and hundreds of marketers. So I think it gives us a really good perspective. And these are marketers from all range of the marketing function, from global CMOs, global heads of omnichannel, global heads of planning, business unit leaders, marketing managers, marketing analysts, heads of knowledge and insight, heads of omnichannel planning, and the list goes on. And so it was amazing as we were getting that we're talking, just the consistency of some of the themes that they were coming up. So these are the themes that we're going to share with you this morning, and I hope you find them interesting. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what we're calling the rebirth of a discipline, and we're calling it Omnichannel Performance Management, or OPM. And so what's the, first we should probably define OPM for you, but we're calling it the management and optimization of marketing performance at the omnichannel level. We call it the CMO level view of the marketing enterprise. So it's not just individual channels. And I think if you look back in the history, we say, people have been doing marketing performance management or channel management, of course, throughout the history of marketing. But the difference we're seeing now is that's moving into the omnichannel level. People are really looking at the view out of the channel, one level up at the level of purview of the CMO. We break it into 4 main buckets, if you will, of data: online and offline spend and performance data, business outcome data, right? Things like obviously sales, and brand equity outcomes. So things like brand awareness, brand affinity, net promoter score, these levels of metrics that deal with the how much equity in the brand. And so getting the view of how all these are coming together is really moving at least the metric side more out of the tactical, more into the strategic. So talking about omnichannel, where does it come from? Well, we did a quick Google Trend search for omnichannel, and you can see here there was nothing before 2012. So the word, I'm not sure how the word got coined, but I do know starting about 2012, it was used mostly by ad companies to describe multi-screen ad campaigns, right? Pushing things created through TV or through web or through mobile or through tablets. Now, that changed over time, and so retailers picked it up to begin to describe the movement of experiences from the online to the offline world, and more recently from the movement of experiences in the retail sector from offline to online. But what we're seeing now is an overall adoption by marketing to really describe all these things I spoke about, online, offline spend, brand equity, and business outcome data. And so we asked a lot of our customers, why now? Why are you doing this now? And the main reason is because all the channel tools are in place. We spent about 15 years or so bringing on the people, process, and technology for all of the digital tools. Social has been occupying mind share for the last 5 years or so. And so just now, all of the ecosystem is in place to begin to bring this data together at the omnichannel level. We're also seeing specialized vendors emerging, people like execution platforms, this whole range of tools in this marketing middleware category, which I'll speak about down the presentation. And finally, just really dedicated omnichannel performance management tools like Beckon. Before we go forward, I want to talk about, just to orient you to the couple of main categories of omnichannel data. So here you have all of our channels. We have online, offline channels, business outcomes, brand outcomes. And we have one kind of omnichannel data, which is at the customer level. Very tactical data. It's primarily doing with following customers or either the named customers or cookies, for example, across different channels. There's a whole host of vendors who are in that space, people like DMPs, people like digital attribution, people who are trying to weave together at the customer level, individual touch points and what customers are experiencing. There's another type of omnichannel data, however, that we're also seeing that's emerging. And this is data at the campaign and aggregate level. So this is data that is coming out of all the individual channel tools. We're talking metrics, likes, clicks, pins, views, things of that nature, and bringing those up at the strategic level. There's very few CMOs who really care about things like an individual, impressions per particular campaign. But once you have that data aggregated and normalized, you can then view things overall, things like obviously return on marketing investment or return on marketing outcomes, right, ROMI, ROMO, or things like customer lifetime value, or more campaign level things like overall cost per impression per campaign or cost per engagement per campaign. And you get a sense for what's happening not within the channel, but within the campaign, the cross-channel campaign. How are my campaigns relating to each other, and what campaigns are outperforming each other to allow for the movement of spend between channels. So just a quick overview of that. Moving on to the implications. Well, the implications are there's going to be increased pressure for marketers to develop the people, process, and technology to support omnichannel performance management. There's going to be a very rapid evolution in the space. I like to think that Beckon is having some influence in that. And as this gets to be more strategic, of course, there's going to be more and more interest by CMOs and senior executives, the C-suite, in what's happening with the management of data and how this is being reported. All right, moving on to number 2. To support all of this omnichannel, this new discipline that's emerging, you have to have someone to do this. So we're seeing the rise of what we're calling the global marketing performance intelligence teams. And what does this look like? Well, it looks like all these different roles we're seeing really throughout 2013 and 2014 begin to emerge. Global head of omnichannel, global knowledge and insights, chief marketing technologist, head of marketing ops, global analytics and insights, omnichannel marketing insights, head of omnichannel insights. We kind of see a theme here, which is it's a centralized way of bringing together the knowledge and the thought leadership around this concept of omnichannel marketing performance management. And it's happening not in a necessarily very top-down way, but in more of a center of excellence way. So we're seeing center of excellences emerge, omnichannel center of excellence, marketing technology center of excellence. This is a way for large global organizations or highly distributed organizations to do centralized planning and have the execution take place in the field where it matters, right? In the region or down in the business unit. So it's the way to influence standards, the way to influence things like rules of governance around data, how everything fits together without actually centralizing that all in a top-down way. It's proving to be the most effective way to do it. What are the implications? Well, realize within your own organization, what is responsibility for this omni-channel view, this all-channel view lie within the organization? You may take an existing corporate marketing function and add to their job description this standard setting or this way of centralizing thought leadership around omnichannel, or you may create one of these new organizations around omnichannel particularly. And these teams need to be empowered because by the very nature, they're operating cross-channel and oftentimes cross-business. Once you're dipping into things like sales data and other enterprise business data, they have to be empowered by C-level executive or a very senior executive, CMO, CEO. They need to have the ear and the backing in order to create these standards and have them effectively implemented. And a way to think about it is global standards supported by distributed execution. That's what we're really seeing as the way forward, and how a lot of the marketers we're talking about are going to be implementing or realizing this vision of omnichannel marketing performance. So in this very busy time in marketing technology, what we expected to see very much when we started Beckon is running into a lot of generic business intelligence projects that were happening. And we did early on. But we're seeing now, certainly, we call it bye-bye generic business intelligence, hello functioning specific marketing data tools. We're really seeing fewer and fewer general BI platforms like Business Objects or Cognos, or new BI platforms like Good Data or Burst, being used in this concept of omnichannel marketing data. And instead, we're seeing very specialized tools emerge. And I think about, in Salesforce, what Salesforce did to CRM, we see happening in this field as well. So when Salesforce came on, right, Salesforce.com in the CRM world, we had a ton of very general purpose databases that had been built up into custom CRM systems, as well as you had big on-prem systems like Siebel. Once the SaaS nature of CRM gained some traction, all of those custom systems, most of them went away, and the adoption of Salesforce began. I think the same thing is going to happen. Why? Well, data is changing. Marketing data, as we know, marketing programs, marketing tactics, marketing data is really becoming big data with a variety and velocity of the data. We're seeing, because the SaaS tools can get implemented and running so much faster, there's a much greater time to value. We laugh and talk to some of our customers and say they've had custom business intelligence projects to support marketing going on for literally years. And we say that Beckon takes weeks, not years. So just give you some sense of the time to value. And what that means is a higher ROI and a lower total cost of ownership. I'd also bear to mention the role of enterprise IT is evolving. So as marketing is rapidly evolving, so is IT. And moving perhaps less away from doing custom integration projects and more towards management of these many distributed systems. So something to keep in mind as well. And the implications of this? Well, if you have any internal projects going on around creating custom data warehouses for marketing, take a look at them. Audit your existing projects. Do a real serious make versus buy analysis. Does it make sense to go forward with custom build, or is there an off-the-shelf SaaS product that can fulfill your need? And finally, cultivate IT as your trusted advisor. IT knows a lot. IT is responsible for centralized standards in their world, things like security, data security, tech security. So really form that relationship, not as oftentimes, unfortunately, it becomes adversarial, but really as a partnership in forging this new view of how IT can support marketing and the adoption of technology. So the marketing tech stack as an ecosystem. So the insight here, the observation here is that marketers are beginning to really view all these disparate parts of their marketing technology stack as an ecosystem, and they're wanting ecosystem-like connectivity between them. Why is this happening? Well, the minute you begin to take an omni-channel view of all of your channels and all of your marketing data, what do you see? Well, you quickly uncover that many of the systems and the data in those systems are incompatible or basically unshareable. A lot of these systems weren't designed to share data. They're purposely meant, one might say, to trap data in the system. And so it's super hard to do omnichannel performance management with all the data that's trapped in channel silos and you can't get it out. Additionally, there's a whole bunch of technologies that have overlapping technology. So you have to understand, for the technology or application you're using, are you using all of it? Are you using part of it? If there is overlapping technology, usually a lot of companies have overlapping technologies emerge, just going on at the same time, which makes things like a single source of truth very difficult. I'm going to show you the chief MarTech marketing technology landscape. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. If you're not, it's done by a guy named Scott Brinker, who runs the blog Chief MarTech. He's an awesome thought leader in the space, but you can see here there's over 1,800 companies in the marketing technology space, and so it's only going to get bigger and more of a problem. Yes, and just in case you're interested, there's Beckon, upper right corner, a little hard to see, but we are there nonetheless. So the implications. The implications for any new requirements should be, for any new MarTech or AdTech system, understanding the data availability integration. How are you getting the data out of that system, and how are you going to blend it with the rest of your marketing ecosystem? You're going to need some organizational help, right? Who's the centralized traffic cop for understanding, for setting the standards, for understanding how these systems are going to work together? Is it your chief of MarTech? Is it your head of Omnichannel? It needs to rely within the marketing organization someplace, and they need to have the purview to be able to enforce these rules around systems integration and data integration. And finally, understand that if you're a large global organization, you're going to have some large global systems that should be applying to everybody. And the more integrated those systems are, the better. But you also have to make room for local systems, local agencies, right? Maybe local social systems that are going to take place within each regional or local area. So make sure your system can flex, the ecosystem can flex to adopt that, all those systems. Number 5, rest in peace, single centralized data warehouses. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the era of the single marketing data warehouse or the single enterprise data warehouse is really going away. So as companies move to be supported by more SaaS applications, it holds up the velocity of a lot of this data analysis and a lot of this omnichannel view if you're beholding to centralized enterprise BI teams who are waiting to develop specifications to bring on your data, in a very waterfall fashion. So what we're seeing here is a movement towards decentralized applications, decentralized data, but they all need to be connected by what we're calling marketing middleware. So there's a glue here, and so the glue is not necessarily putting all the data in the same place, but it's connecting all the data in a way that can all be accessed and used in a standardized way. So again, this is the chief MarTech landscape. There's a green box here about 2/3 of the way down. This is just showing, he actually calls out this middleware function. And there's a bunch of different categories. I'm not going to get into it. This is probably another, webinar in itself, but it's called out here. These are systems that are, the sole goal is to move data around, to blend data, to match data, and to make sure data is available. So what are the implications? Well, just really resolve this paradox of trying to integrate all of your data with the decentralization of all your execution by setting global standards and oversight. So that, again, takes place at this larger organization, and they're doing things like global taxonomy projects, global metrics definition projects. What are the KPIs that we're going to all use together, and having some best practices for the governance of all of these data collection activities going on. Which leads to the next observation or trend here, which is global data and reporting taxonomies are the new black. So we ran into so many taxonomy projects, marketing taxonomy projects that were kicking off this year. And for those of you who don't know, what's a taxonomy? Taxonomy is simply a hierarchical classification of entities. So they require agreement on things like naming, on nomenclature, on the classification of those things, and on a hierarchy. So what does that look like? Super simple. We've had questions before on taxonomy. I think back to grade school when you had to classify your animals, animal kingdoms, vertebrates, invertebrates. You got cold-blooded, warm-blooded, on your way down. Well, the same thing needs to be done for marketing. A couple of examples, you may have a taxonomy around your marketing programs, initiatives, campaigns, channel, tactics, activities. All these things need to be defined, and then naming classifications created for them. It could be regional as well. You may define things as a global, as a region, maybe a sub-region, country, state, city, store, DMA, et cetera. All that stuff needs to be agreed upon so that then the data can be tagged properly and it can be brought out of the channel in a way that's easy to understand. Like this happening, we mentioned this distributed versus decentralized nature. As it emerges, you have to have some way of normalizing all that data, and the way to do it is through naming and tagging standards, and cannot be rigid. So a way to think about it is you have to have some, certainly, standards, but the system's got to be built flexible enough so that it can accommodate the flexibility inherent within marketing. Sorry, guys, slides go on here. All right, so next implication, integrated marketing platform, just in the Y2K. So for those of you who are around during the Y2K era, it really means this notion of it's going to be a huge deal. Turns out to be not such a big deal. So throughout the last 5 years or so, a lot of marketing platforms have been madly buying smaller companies in an effort to weave together this giant platform of integration. And the reality is it's been super hard to deliver. Just the integration at the data level, at the application level, has really not come to fruition. So we're seeing that marketing is really moving to more of a best-of-breed approach. So whether it's not one or the other, you're going to have some of the platforms in place, right? And so we're back to the chief martech diagram. Here's the gray square at the bottom here. These are all your marketing platforms, and most of the companies that we are partnering with or using Beckon have some version of many of these tools in place, but they're also using a lot of best-of-breed tools up in the execution space. So marketing experiences, marketing operations, tons of new tools in addition to these platforms. And so the implications there are really around data is going to continue to be messy. The marketing landscape will be messy. We have to create a structure that can support a best-of-breed ecosystem, and that means a lot of marketing middleware to pass around the data and a lot of standards being set at the global level so that all of the data can operate together. Marketing goes below the waterline with data management. Coming up on the end here. So what's happening now? Well, beginning as we were talking about Beckon with customers, we ran into a lot of not a lot, but some problems when marketers were very focused on what the look of the report was. They were very used to episodic reporting. I'm creating my integrated marketing report once a month. I have to have these exactly 40 slides. You can't make these 40 slides, then we can't work together. But as this has evolved, people are understanding more and more. Once you automate the data flows into automated data environments, it becomes less about the presentation and more about the data. We know any analysis project, 80% of the time is spent collecting and cleansing the data. So if we can, through this process of automation and a standard setting, change that so that 80% of the effort is spent on analysis and 20% on integration, I think it will be a huge success and a huge return on investment. Implications for this? Wait for the slide to load here. Sorry guys, a little slide issue. There we go. Have a strategy in place for data management. Realize this is going to need to be a core competency of any marketing department going forward, and you're going to have dedicated people. We call them data engineers. Not data scientists, those are the analysts. These are data engineers whose goal is just in the management and normalization and the movement of this data between applications. Number 9, long-live data democratization, or self-serve or no-serve. So the insight here is that the speed of marketing, as it picks up, you have to move analysis out of data scientists, out of the marketing analysts, into the marketing manager level. So we're seeing a lot of tools now, Beckon included, that are targeting the marketing manager as their main user. Go in, get the data, do your analysis, do your optimization, your campaign optimization, and then use that to continually improve. A lot of always-on media is forcing this as well. What are the implications? Well, the implications are marketers generally have to get more comfortable with data, develop an expertise with data. Marketing executives, once you have this view of the omnichannel world, marketing executives have visibility into all aspects, strategic and tactical. So it's very important that the executives understand the numbers they're seeing, but also throughout the marketing enterprise, marketers are generally comfortable with data and have a greater data awareness. And finally, coming up here towards the end, final slide, or a couple slides here, a final trend here is marketers need to become data storytellers. Or we have the data, so what? So what's the insight here? Well, as data begins to be automated, as it's flowing faster and faster, there's a real signal-to-noise ratio problem. Tons and tons of data, what does it mean? Well, we're seeing that marketers are moving away from the typical, send a spreadsheet to your boss, or I'm going to deliver to you, we had X program had, Y impressions and Z conversions. Well, if you're a CMO, there's really no context for that. So marketers have to get better at telling a story. Stories as a narrative, a beginning, a middle, and an end. So when you're talking to the CMO, when you talk to the marketing leader, what are your goals of the program? Here's the program. Here's what we set out to do. Here are our goals. Here are the first 2 weeks of the program. Here's what we found some issues. Here's how we optimize. Here's the results for the rest of the program. And here's how this program met its goals. And here's how the goals of this program support the goals of the CMO. And here are some insights that we have learned from this program that we can then use throughout the other programs throughout the enterprise. So again, telling the story, much more powerful than just rows and columns of data. All right, with that, I'm wrapped up on our content portion of the presentation. I'm going to turn it back over to Bonnie for some questions.
Thanks very much, Kevin, and we do have some questions coming in through the interface. The first is interesting. So Beckon works with a lot of different marketers, hundreds of different marketers. How many different channels do most of them operate in? Is there the standard package, like everybody's in these 5 channels and then a couple of others? Or is it all different? Are there so many channels out there that everybody's mix is a completely different set of channels?
Yeah, it would be a super easy problem if everyone used the same channels. But I think if you look back at that MarTech diagram, 1,800 different companies, and a lot of them are serving the same channels, but a lot of different channels. And so we at Beckon, one way to get to the question is to think about the number of different types of data sources that we are bringing on. And we're bringing on, probably at this point, well over 200 or 300 different types of data sources. So all those represent not all different channels, but all different applications within channels. So it's still, marketing is art and science, and marketing is always going to be operating off of an imperfect or very incomplete data set. And so, marketing is going to become more data informed, of course, but just the nature of marketing means you're never going to have all the data to make all of the perfect decisions. So a lot of art in how you are addressing your audience, the classic marketing classic marketing kind of planning. Where's your audience? What channels are they viewing? And then pushing your program through those channels.
All right. Here is one that I just simply have to ask. I think you kind of answered it on the bye-bye generic BI tools, but how is Beckon different from Domo?
Yeah, so I think that's just it. So Domo is really trying to solve the problem at the CEO level, right? So if I'm looking at a CEO, I'm trying to get a sense of what's happening across not just my marketing and sales, but also my supply chain, my finance, my HR, my manufacturing. And so Domo is tooled to pull all of those metrics from all those different channels. So they're wider than Beckon, but I would say much less deep than Beckon. Beckon is marketing focused, so we're able to focus on a lot of marketing frameworks, marketing best practices, things like benchmarking, to really focus the effort for the marketer. So I think you're going to find with marketing that Beckon is going to be faster time to value, faster onboarding, and just providing more value to the marketer in terms of the frameworks we're using, the ways we're able to apply marketing concepts, things like paid, owned, earned, for example. These things are automatically, throughout the Beckon system, we're able to tag metrics with paid, owned, earned, campaign. There's a campaign hierarchy within Beckon. So a lot of these things that are marketing specific that wouldn't, say, apply to HR or wouldn't say apply to supply chain, you're going to find within Beckon. So for the marketer, I think personally, I think it's a clear choice, but obviously happy to answer more questions about that after the webinar.
Also, this one is an interesting one coming in about the quote-unquote birth of a discipline. So yeah, we want to birth this discipline in our own department, but we have a strong desire to be smarter and better, but management doesn't seem to be willing to invest in tools and technology to wrangle the data. So do you have any experience in helping your customers build a business case for selling this type of investment upstream?
Yeah, we do. In fact, we do this a lot. It's not uncommon for new technologies to emerge, and it takes a little while for senior leadership to really understand the value. And so, yeah, we spend a lot of time. We have some ROI case studies. We're happy to talk to help marketers who want to do this both present what OPM is and then present the value of it. And just straight away, at the very base, what are we talking about? We're talking about automating oftentimes manual systems. So everybody out here is doing tons of cutting and pasting, and we have customers right now who are saving 20, 30 hours a week just in the automation of all those processes. So moving away from a manual process to an automated process, you're going to save 1 to 2 FTEs worth of time right away. And that's just cost avoidance. That's a straight, no BS number. Above that, you have the beginnings of performance optimization. So now that we're moving budget between channels, we're moving budget between campaigns, we're able to see what's working across the entire spend, it's only going to really improve the overall benefit, the overall ROI of Beckon. And we do have some of that information as well. So happy to share. Just give us a call. Give me a call or sales@beckon.com. We'll also get you into talk to us to one of our AEs as well.
You can also tweet questions to us like this after the webcast through the Twitter that we monitor all the time. We won't be looking at the Q&A widget here in the webcast anymore, but we're at Beckon Inc. So those questions will get answered right away. So last question, and we're going to wrap it up after this, but we have some questions about data modeling and attribution and where Beckon fits into that landscape of things. If the customer has an interest in data modeling or attribution, how does Beckon fit in with that process?
Sure. I'm going to show you a slide here. I didn't show the presentation, but it gets at the different types of optimization taking place, right, throughout the marketing organization. Just quick orientation. Left axis here, you have the scope of the optimization. Is it a very tactical optimization? Is it managerial, or is it strategic? And then to the bottom here, we have the speed of the decision. Is it immediate, daily, weekly, monthly, or biannual or annual? And so this landscape here kind of lays out the kinds of optimizations and where Beckon would fit in vis-a-vis other people like mixed modelers or like attribution. So if you're down here in the immediate category, very tactical, again, this is next best action stuff. This is DMPs, DSPs, all the programmatic advertising. This is about getting immediate next best action in front of, in the digital viewer case, a digital ad. Attribution takes place at that level. So there take place, in the daily to weekly, sometimes immediate, mostly daily and weekly kind of cadence, and it's still very tactical stuff, right? So, for this sale, which ad is most responsible. At the very top end, you have mixed modeling. So upper right corner, you have mixed modelers. They're taking big, chunky data sets and doing a lot of econometric modeling, a lot of regression modeling, trying to predict the movement of funds between channels. And that's done at an annual or biannual basis. And so a lot of marketers we have, they certainly have, oftentimes they have both of these pieces, one at a very high level, one at a very low level. And the place Beckon is fitting in is in this middle area we're calling managerial or omnichannel campaign analytics. It's basically some comparative analytics around things like, here we have test and control, A/B testing, internal benchmarking, comparative ranking, visual correlations, lift over baseline, external benchmarking, tracking to goal or objective. These things that are super hard to do now at the omnichannel level, but once you automate the data flows, once you automate the structuring of the data, and you begin to set targets and then track the targets, all of these comparative metrics become much easier to do. In fact, one of our customers, we're talking to a large CPG brand, and he is the global head of the integrated analytics, and he basically said, yeah, this is all the stuff that we would love to be able to do, but we just can't right now because it takes too much time and too much energy. So again, they're moving from a manual environment, they're moving towards the automated way of pulling in data, supported by Beckon, and we think that's the way forward.
All right, folks, I think that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and do remember to reach out to us at the contact information in the event console at the bottom of the screen, or send us some tweets on Twitter, and we'll get back to you with those questions. We did have a flurry of questions there at the end, and I'm sorry we were not able to get to them all, but please do reach out via other mediums, and we sure will. Looking forward to our next webcast. Thanks so much, Kevin, and have a great day, everyone.
Great, thanks.